All right, everyone, there's another worrying thing happening right now in the Middle East. Iran actually attacking targets in Pakistan, Jaish targets. I can't really pronounce it. I think it's pronounced Jaish al-Adl. Correct me if I'm wrong. Somebody out there probably knows some Arabic. Anyway, Pakistan condemning this at the moment and swearing retaliation, which could just be sword rattling, and we're hoping there's no escalation there. See, the problem is Iran and Pakistan are big countries. They have large militaries. Pakistan has atomic bombs. If things pop off between the Iranians and the Pakistanis, shit could hit the fan real hard. Wouldn't be necessarily certain who wins too, because of course Iran has been tinkering with the nuclear development thing. Pakistan's arsenal, it's not necessarily the biggest and most sophisticated, but they do have them. You could end up with battlefield nukes or something like that being used potentially, although I'm not sure they achieved enough miniaturization. If Iran were to incur into the border of Pakistan, or if the Pakistani military draws up on the border and starts shelling targets, it would be part of the larger regional conflict we're already seeing between Israel and Gaza. That's number one. By the way, Europe roundly condemning Israel at the moment. United States still backs them. Then you have cross-border incursions with Lebanon. You've had strikes on Iraq and Syria targets actually the other day by the Iranians. So they're really throwing their weight around. Again, Iran has a relatively sophisticated military capability. So this is different from Israel invading an area that's mostly civilian population, very small, and then occupying it while fighting, Hamas militants. It's a little bit different. These are two state actors. The United States, by the way, tends to support Pakistan while also supporting India. That's on the other side of the border. Things can get a little bit sketchy too. You've had numerous border post skirmishes between the two countries, sometimes involving death, usually just involving people yelling and throwing rocks at each other more than anything else. There's some bad blood there actually between the Islamic majority in Pakistan and the mainly Hindu nationalists of the Indian military you see. Link in the description, archived of course. This is very worrisome. The problem is that with Iran shuttered out of the world diplomatic stage, mostly among Western countries, a diplomatic response would be less likely than something of a military nature. I'm sure that the troops are already rallying in Pakistan. Now, this was a strike on militant targets, but it was on foreign soil. The United States gets away with doing this all the time. Russia gets away with doing this all the time. China to an extent, and other countries that have large arsenals. It's not normal for Iran to be striking so many targets in foreign soil at the same time over a short period. Partially in alliance with the Houthis. We're seeing things pop off there. It looks like it's becoming a regional war, which is exactly what sane people would seek to avoid. Number one, because you'll have civilian casualties, and there were apparently civilians killed in these strikes, which is why Pakistan is condemning them, the operation. Number one, for civilian harm. Number two, because sane people aren't warmongers, so sane people aren't Nikki Haley, basically is what I'm saying. Third, for worldwide logistics. The amount of shipping that goes through that general region, should it pop off, being hazarded, would skyrocket prices and cause shortages across the world of many, many critical goods. It would impact the entire world economy. With the world economy already having some problems, you could push it into a Great Depression. You could have a collapse at any given moment. So it would affect everybody in the world. Hopefully peace talks ensue. Because if Iran and Pakistan, again with relatively large, powerful militaries, decide to go to war with one another, not likely at this juncture, but you're moving in that direction with every hostile act, it would cause chaos, actually. And the United States can't directly intervene on behalf of the Pakistanis or the Iranians, for that matter. First, for diplomatic reasons. Secondly, because Iran happens to be in the Russian sphere. So, I mean, if you get a war, people are going to have to sit back and watch as untold casualties mount. It could be very, very bloody. That's hoping that it doesn't happen. It's okay to attack militants if they're fucking with you, but, generally you don't do that on foreign soil without permission. But, I mean, permission's not going to be granted. It's almost like Iran said, fuck it, and let's just have a war or something like that. And so it's worrisome. You have a pre-nuclear power and an atomic power potentially sparring with each other. They happen to be in different spheres. Pakistan leans towards the West, or at the very least that the U.S. bribes them in order to get them to effectively be kind of sort of Western, although they're part of the Chinese Silk Road plan and shit like that. String of Pearls, Silk Road, etc. And then Iran, of course, again, they are partnered with militia around the region, Hezbollah, Hamas to an extent. Again, the demographics there can get a little bit muddy with regards to the form of Islam that's being practiced. That certainly hampers, having a regional bloc at times. The Syrians, of course, Assad, you've got a fairly beefy alliance there with a fairly large amount of firepower. Now you also have the possibility that this militant group decides to retaliate, even if the Pakistani government doesn't. And what, again, I would point to is that this is part of a larger now regional conflict, if not a full-on regional war, that started because the Western world lacks solid leadership. You have a leader in France who is weak. He's having trouble holding things together, so that's one potential power pole. France still operates in North Africa on a common basis, although they got kicked out of Niger, actually, recently. And then ECOWAS is collapsing, apparently. So, again, things can pop off in West Africa, too. So, you could have a world war sort of situation. The UK is not fully troop ready. The United States military readiness is a joke right now compared to what it was a few years ago. Because Biden wokeified the military, and then people stopped showing up for recruitment because they're like, what? What's the fucking point? I don't know. I wouldn't feel safe joining the military right now myself. Under Joe Biden, wars are breaking out all over the place because the Western world can't engage in proper diplomacy. This is why you have threats over Guyana. This is why you have Kim Jong-un actually swearing that he's going to remove that peace monument, the reunification monument in North Korea that's supposed to be a symbol of rapprochement between the two Koreas. He's scrapping that right now. He's gone further than his father or his grandfather now, at least in rhetoric at this particular point, saying, no, we're not going to reunify. South Korea's our enemy. Fuck South Korea. There will be no reunification. Just a perpetual stalemate Cold War situation. This is the direct opposite of the rhetoric that we got 3 years ago, I would note. This is why things are popping off in Israel. This is why things popped off in Ukraine. This is why there's all threats over Taiwan, etc., etc. The world's on fire right now. Things were so nice and calm there for a few years. It was very idyllic under Donald Trump's leadership. We're hoping, of course, that he's reelected again for the third time. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, honk, honk. Because then hopefully these things de-escalate. Because then all of a sudden the West actually has somebody who's capable of talking to the leaders of these countries and negotiating with them, as opposed to simply throwing around insults. It's like Biden does the exact opposite. He speaks loudly and carries no stick. He's just a blowhard. All of these other groups that are popping off know this, which is why they're popping off in the first place. That's about all. Peace out.